pro wrestling podcast. And here are your hosts, the Hot Pockets impresario, Johnny Bottles, and the neckbeard psychologist, Dr. Don Wayne.
You heard the young lady. My name is Johnny Bottles. Some people say I am the Hot Pockets impresario. I have to expand my horizons, Don, to Totino's Pizza Rolls. I have to find something.
You're going to have to. You're going to have to.
By the way, how were those great value pizza rolls you enjoyed?
I never got a chance to get to them this weekend.
You son of a bitch.
Look, there's a lot of football left. We're just getting into the season. I played golf Saturday, had a few beers, got home, watched the rest of the games. I had a good weekend. We're starting off Tuesday. We got a lot to talk about. Got a little rundown sheet here so everybody knows where we're going here. Going to talk a little bit about the passing of Psycho Sid. I want to touch on that in just a minute. Talk a little bit about Smackdown, a little bit about Raw, and, of course, the all-in nonsense. Got a lot to get to. I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notifications button. If it's your first time watching the show live, let us know. I did want to start off with this, though. Well, go ahead.
I'm just going to ask you what you were going to start off with. We're on the same wavelength, Don. We're on the same wavelength. I
wanted to touch on Psycho Sid real quick because his passing was unexpected. Nobody really knew he was sick outside of his family. I'd read and heard after the fact that he had been fighting some form of cancer. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I had heard and what I had seen. I'm not in the family. Of course, I don't know what's going on. But a couple of guys that watch the show said they were at the fan meet and greet a couple of weeks ago in Charlotte. He was there, and nobody knew he was sick at all. They didn't know he was sick. He was a very friendly gentleman. He was very giving to the fans. He was glad to see them. His guy, a couple of the guys that were on Twitter said, "Hey, man, I was glad that I got to see him and I got to meet him finally." Sid was a little bit different.
He could have had like leukemia, some sort of leukemia.
I'm not even going to guess.
I'm just saying that could have been the case too, because Roman Reigns had it and he didn't look like he was dying, but that's a blood condition, and who's to say? Who's to say what he had? Don't know. When his son comes out and Gunther Udi comes out and says, would come out and say what's wrong, what the deal was, then we'll know. I'm sure there'll be services announced. There'll be a nice wrestling presence there, I hope. One of the most horrific in-ring injuries.
God almighty. If you've never seen it, kids, Google Psycho Sid leg break. It was one of the most gruesome injuries I've ever seen happen in the ring. And do you know the backstory behind that whole thing? On how that came to be? Yeah, he was back there talking to one of the producers or whatever, telling him, "We want you to come off that second turnbuckle and hammer down." You would come off the turnbuckle? Yeah, come off the turnbuckle. And he looked at him and said, "I'm going to break my damn leg." He said, "No, you'll be fine. You'll be fine." You're a shit. When you are that large of a man coming off a middle turnbuckle with all that weight, it's not going to end well. But I did want to touch on a couple of the things that I don't know when the first time you saw him was. The first time I saw him was when he was in WCW. I believe he was part of the Skyscrapers.
Yes.
Was the tag team. So that was the first time I saw him.
Sid and Spivey, yes.
Yes. And the first time I saw him, do you want to know my immediate thought was? That guy's in the wrong company. Why is he not in the WWF? He looked the part of the WWF area. He looked at that modern gimmick. He looked like a WWF guy. Big bastard, built, had a good look about him, had long blonde hair. And then lo and behold, as it usually happens, he shows up in WWF. And his first big feud that I can remember was against Hogan. And it was the first time that, I'm probably 13, 14. I can't remember how old I was at the time. But it was the first time I looked at Hogan and thought, he's not the most muscular guy in the ring anymore, and he's not the biggest blonde guy in the ring. And this guy's got all of his hair. Uh-oh, what's going on? What's going on? We got something here. And when he dumped Hogan over the ropes at the Royal Rumble, when it was leading to that WrestleMania, and the crowd went crazy, that was sort of the first inkling that you knew that Hogan's baby face run was coming to an end. And the fans were, even back then, they were looking for a little bit more of an edgier heel. Again, I want to thank everybody for watching. What about you, Bottles? What do you remember about Sid, like the first time you saw him? What do you remember? Like, what stands out?
Just the sheer size of the man. I mean, he was enormous. Jacked up, huge guy. I remember in the Continental Wrestling Federation, he appeared as Lord Humongous. That's where he got his start. If you've ever seen The Road Warrior, of course you have. Mad Max, The Road Warrior. And the second Mad Max movie, there was a guy in there who had chains wrapped around him. He had a hockey mask, a huge man. He was Lord Humongous in that movie. That was his nickname. And Sid took that. They stuck that on Sid. And he came to the ring. They said he had too much of a baby face. That's why they put the hockey mask on back then. But when he was in WCW, I didn't see a baby face. I saw a grizzled young man who was the largest human I've ever seen, with the most scary-looking human I've ever seen, Danny Spivey.
Yeah.
They called him Left Hand Dan, if you know what that means. We talked about that on the show months ago. And the biggest... coming out with Teddy Long, he was their manager, and that infamous clip of the two jobbers from the Saturday Night Show.
Where the one guy was in front of his hometown.
Yes, with his whole family.
He's a local
in the
guy.
First two rows. Local guy. He would not sell. He wouldn't sell at all. He had old black tights.
Leather pants.
Black leather tights. He had leather pants. And they knocked him down. He jumped right back up again. And they knocked him down. He jumped right back up again. And Sid's clotheslined him and looking at Spivey like, what the hell am I going to do? Spivey ran in the ring and said, sell, MFer. Sell. And stomped the hell out of him. And it was just,
and then took him out of the ring
Teddy,
and kicked the shit out of him.
They threw him out of the ring after the match. They went back in and got him and threw him out of the ring. And Teddy Long said, beat his ass. It's on YouTube, guys. Look up that clip.
Oh, yeah. It's
the
great
Skyscrapers versus the jobber that wouldn't sell. Just type those words in and it will come up. There's several iterations of that clip on YouTube. And it's gold. 7 minutes of gold.
And he also had some of the most amazingly funny, unfunny clips. Like, he wasn't trying to be. Like, we talked about this a couple months ago when he was talking to Jim Ross. And he started on the, whatever show it was a pay-per-view. And he starts talking. He goes, can we start open? We're live, pal. Ah, shit. Like, he was like, oh, no, this isn't going well. And there was another one. I don't know if you ever heard this story or not.
Is this the Hogan thing?
No. Oh, it might be. But it's the
Hogan thing.
I might not remember this, but it's when Vince McMahon offered him Hogan's spot in the company. I don't know if you've heard this story, but he was actually
heard this story.
He was offered that spot to be the babyface, to be the babyface of the company, because Hogan was going on to Hollywood at the time, and Vince could see the writing on the wall. I'm not going to have this guy much longer. He's got other interests. You know what he said? I'm a heel. I don't want to do that shit. I don't want that spot. He turned down the spot. You want to talk about a guy that wasn't in this for, to get over or to be over? He was in this thing for the money. He was in this to get paid. Sure. And you gotta respect the guy that's not going to mark out for himself and was just here for the payday. And he said so as much in an interview, I think it was Sean Mooney, where he just said, I'm here to get paid. I don't even know what the card is I'm on. Pay me. Let me go out there. And the other part about it before we move on is his power bomb was one of the best in the business because he threw you through the mat. When you went up, you were coming down, and he was planting you in the middle of that bastard.
I remember it was a War Games match, and he grabbed Flying Brian Pillman, and they were in the cage, and he went to power bomb Pillman, and when he brought him up, he hit his face on the top of the cage, and when he brought him down, he slammed him down in the ring, and Pillman bounced up. He was so light. And I said, that's going to leave a mark, pal. That's going to hurt. I saw that live on pay-per-view. Fantastic stuff. He also had an issue with, I think he was cleaning his windshield at a gas station one time. And when they were on the road after a show, and he ran afoul of Brian Pillman. He chased Pillman through the parking lot with a squeegee in his hand. And the guys in the car, I forgot who they were, riding with Sid. What the hell is he doing?
Barry Windham.
What the hell is he doing?
Chasing a 6'8", 300-pound man, chasing a 5'10" grown man around a car like Ring Around the Rosies, trying to whoop his ass with a cheap squeegee that you get at a Wawa.
Yes.
It was absolutely glorious. I just want to start the show off with that. Rest in peace, Psycho Sid, Sid Udy. You were one of a kind. You will never be forgotten by my generation and Johnny's generation and all the generations that watched this afterwards. What a hell of a guy, man. Just love watching everything about him.
Fantastic. By the way, I found a clip on Twitter of a recent match of Psycho Sid. We'll get into that later on.
Okay.
We'll talk about that later on. He's wrestling one of your favorites in one of his final matches. I've got the clip on Twitter, pal. And it's gold.
Oh, shit. I know. No, go ahead and show it. I know the one you're talking about. It's Sami Zayn, isn't it?
No, it's not Sami Zayn.
Oh, it's not. Okay. Did I miss this one?
I got to search for this now.
No, he was in a match with Sami Zayn when he came back after he broke his leg, where he powerbombed Zayn and he jumped up on his feet and then ran over the ropes like a jackass. This is when all this goofy shit started in the wrestling business. And that was, 20-something years ago, so it's only gotten worse since then. I do want to thank everybody for watching tonight. We're going to get to the All In, Fall In. We're going to get to some of the problems that we've got in the internet wrestling community, the IWC as it's called. We're going to get to all of that in a minute. Like and subscribe. Hit the notifications button. If you want to get in the super chat, that's open as well. Do you want to talk about Smackdown at all? Because
Smackdown was very lackluster again.
We said this now.
I didn't have my heart in watching that.
Okay, I want to cover this real quick before we move on, because I'm not going to get into detail on SmackDown, because there wasn't anything worth even remembering that I can remember. I just tuned on to watch the final main event because it was going to have Cody Rhodes. I was like, well, I'm going to watch Cody Rhodes wrestle. We have been saying this now for 7-8 weeks, have we not? That it's just SmackDown has become a blah show. It has done nothing to really intrigue you as a fan, to make you want to come in and watch as a fan. The Roman Reigns and the Bloodline stuff, without Roman Reigns, it's just not the same right now, because now that you know that he can come back, well, where the hell is he? Why am I getting it? This is one of the problems that you get into when you have part-time wrestlers. When you have part-time...
Alpha did die. His uncle died. I mean,
I understand that. I get that. I'm not talking about this week, though. I'm talking about the months leading up to his return. He's back for 2 weeks, gets the shit kicked out of him. And now when does he come back? Because I don't think he's advertised for this week, because this is all the go-home show for the Germany show. All of this this week is the go-home.
Right, and those guys, as far as I know, are not going to be on the Bash in Berlin. They're not going to be there. Except for Cody,
want to say this. Well, this show might be pre-taped, or it might be over in Germany. I don't know, and I haven't done the research on this. I was going to talk more about Bash in Berlin on Thursday after we talk about the AEW show. It comes on 1 p.m.,
Don. I don't know what the time zone is. It comes on 1 p.m., which falls in line with the start time of AEW All In, started at 1 p.m. So that must be 8 o'clock over in Europe, 8 o'clock at night in Europe. So,
well, I'm talking about SmackDown. I'm talking about, I don't know if they're filming SmackDown overseas, or if it's live in America.
It's got to be pre-taped, on. It's got to be pre-taped.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, that's sort of where my head's at. So I'll see about that. Yes. I'll look into that for the show Thursday.
I've got the Sid clip, if you'd like to see the Sid clip.
Sure, go ahead.
And he's taking on your favorite guy.
Oh, God. Sid's not running the ropes, pal.
Yeah. Sid's not running the ropes. And that's it.
And that's what it should be. That's the way it should be. You gotta love it. It's Psycho Sid. You didn't go to the ring to see that guy put on a 5-star banger of a 30-minute match, kick somebody's ass within 10 minutes, and get the hell out of there and go home and have yourself a beer. That's what you were looking for back in the day. But back to SmackDown. Your boy,
your favorite taco truck worker, Eddie Kingston.
I'm not even touching on that guy, man. I've already told you, he looked like the Hoboken from New Jersey on that interview he did when he was in his house. It didn't look good.
They say he's got big ZZ Top beard.
I'm not even looking into that. I don't care. I just don't care. What I do care about, though, is SmackDown only did 2 million on the rating. This is what happens. 8 weeks of bad shows. Fans are tuning out. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched the end because I was like, I'm going to look and see if there's anything worth me watching. When I saw nothing, I said, that's it. I'll wash my hands of this. I don't want to watch this shit anymore. I don't. It's gotten worse.
They need Heyman. They need
stars. They need stars that matter.
They got by the first few weeks when it started, when he was restocking the Bloodline with Heyman. They got by with him. He added a lot to that whole thing with the facials, with the lines. When you leave, please take me with you. He said the CM Punk.
Right.
He added so much to that.
So I did want to cover on this a little bit, because this is part of the great divide that's going on in wrestling. And I'm just going to cover on this one real quick. Is even in-house and WWE fans, There are these people online that are raging nonstop on every social media post they put because they have no life. They have nothing else to do. They have no other interest. They sit there on their little phones and they think about ways that they can hate tweet the wrestler that they feel like is just horrible. I have never seen a guy like Cody Rhodes get more hate tweets online, in the chat rooms, on Twitter than I have in the past several months. It's absurd what's going on right now. And look, you and I have talked openly. You're not the biggest fan, but we don't come on the show and talk about it 24/7. These losers, these jackwagons with their little greasy ass thumbs and their prepubescent thought processes cannot stop tweeting nonstop about how it was so much better when Roman was there, or when this guy was there, or why is Cody out there? They're selling out arenas everywhere. Trust me, they're going to notice the ratings. What are you doing, man?
I'm just digesting every word you're saying. They're doing it now with Ricochet.
We're going to get to that. I don't want to run ahead of the horse.
You got him? You've got him lined up? Okay,
I've got him lined up. But again, it's not just the wrestlers, you dipshits. It's the writers, it's the producers, it's the format of the show. Everyone can agree this Cody versus Orton shit is horrible. It's god awful.
Steen.
Sorry, Steen.
Kevin Owens.
Yes. It is awful. No one's disagreeing with that. The way they got here, it's awful. What you cannot disregard is the business that's going on with the company right now. You don't like. It's through the roof. It's Hogan-esque. It's Austin-esque. It's Rock-esque. They're selling out everywhere. Just because you don't like a certain wrestler or performer doesn't mean that they're not over with the majority of the audience. That's how these things work. They look at all the metrics, what's selling, what's not selling, and that's who they decide to put their top guy. When Cody Rhodes turns heel, I have no doubt it's going to be one of the biggest heel turns we will ever see, and it will probably be to line himself with a guy like, I don't know, Paul Heyman.
Yes.
Just putting it out there. So the people that are just obsessed with Cody Rhodes, get a life, you booger-picking idiots. It's sad and pathetic. Roman Reigns is involved in something else. He doesn't need the title, which is something that's always been repeated in wrestling, right? Not everybody needs a title. Once you're over to a certain degree, it's no longer needed. Roman's there. He's a draw on his own. He doesn't need it. Brock, when he comes back, he's there. He doesn't need it. Roman's there. He doesn't need it. CM Punk is there. He doesn't need it. I could keep going on. They're trying to get Cody to become one of those guys that it's no longer needed. If you don't like it, stop watching. It's fine. But you can't deny the metrics and every excuse that they give you throughout this whole thing. Every time. Well, they were going to sell it out regardless. No, they weren't. Go back 3 years. It was shit. WWE 3 years ago was shit.
Horrible.
They couldn't sell 5,000 tickets on a Raw, let alone 8,000 and 9,000. Hell, they were having trouble at some spots selling 3.
They would tarp off places. They would tarp the joint off just like AEW would. But they were a little bit more covert in the way they would tarp things off. They had a lot of practice, like in the mid-2000s. They had a lot of practice tarping things off. Cena would play, he would wrestle in front of 2,000 people on the weekends. That's just the way it was.
And again, we talked about this on the last show on the difference in what the 80s and 90s were like versus today, right? Like we talked about that last week. So believe you me, I'm not comparing this to the 80s and 90s. You could go back last week and watch last Tuesday's show. We went into great detail on what the difference is on that. So thank you for watching tonight. Like and subscribe. Hit that notifications button. Johnny Bottles, do you want to talk about Raw last night or do you want to talk about the All In, Fall In?
Let's save the All In, Fall In for the latter portion of the big show. We'll do Raw right now.
Well, there's only a few things on Raw that I wanted to touch on because you and I had spoke earlier and we had about the same opinion. There was about 3 or 4 things that we really took away from this and we really liked. That was really, it grabbed our attention, right? What did you think? I'll give you the first one. What grabbed your attention on the show first? Well, what was the biggest attention grabber that you had on this show?
All the Judgment Day interaction. I enjoyed that with the Rey Mysterio, the LWO thrown in for good measure. I enjoyed Ray
Just
talking, and
okay.
Ray was talking in somewhat more of a different voice than the way he usually talked to Dominic. Ray was antagonistic towards Dominic. He wasn't trying to be his father, like, what are you doing? What are you doing to yourself? And the rumor has it, when he talked to Dominic in Spanish, he said, you ought to be ashamed of yourself running around with another white woman.
I did not know that.
Alfred Kanua, or Kanunwa, whatever his name is, from Twitter. He writes articles for Forbes. He's got Pro Wrestling Bits as a YouTube channel. The guy's fantastic. He's a stand-up comic also, in addition to a writer and a wrestling pundit. He translated it and said, if you knew what he said, a lot of people would be upset. But I don't find anything. It's edgy.
I will agree with you. I thought the Judgment Day, since everything they did was great. You can't wait because they're going to have the Germany show. We're finally going to have them get their hands on each other. They've been teasing it, and now it's going to be to see if the heels get their up-and-comings. There was one thing on this show that I want to talk about first.
Sure.
That didn't just get my attention, but it was a pay-per-view, PLE, awesome match, awesome everything. Braun Strowman versus Bronson Reed. This thing.
That was so old school.
This thing, when it started, I said, oh, shit, we're going to start off with Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman has never done a thing that I've liked in this company. Never. When I see him, he's got go-away heat with me every time. I called you last night, and I said, I got to go. I got to go, Bottles. This is picking up. Because when he was moving in the ring, he was stiff.
Don's watching it live, and I just put it on because I time shifted. I record it and start later so I can fast forward through the commercials. And I'm at the beginning. Don's going, oh, what's this? What? Oh, my God. Bottles. Oh, Bottles. This is talking to Don while something big's happening on wrestling television. Bottles. Jesus Christ. The big son of a bitch. Oh, no, fuck you. He said, fuck you. Oh, no. There he's up. Now he's down. Jesus Christ. Bottles. This has got no right being this good. I said, okay, pal, where do I catch up to it? And I'll watch it.
Bronson Reed said, to hell with it, I'm not fighting you anymore, and leaves. He's just going to leave, and Braun Strowman says, to hell with that, I'm coming after you. So you think, okay, this is the point where Braun's going to throw him back in the match, and, they finish it up. The referee gets out like, where the hell are you going? And he just rings a bell. But then you can't hear the bell, but you see him going over there to ring the bell like he's done with it. They start fighting all through the back of the stand building. They're hitting shit for real. They're getting chucked into stuff. I'm like, all right, how far is this going to go before this comes to an end? Then they get to the cars outside, and I was talking to you when I said this. We got an old-ass Chrysler and an old-ass Cadillac that just got bought from some shitty dealership for $9.99 each. These cars ain't making it out through the night, pal. You could see this coming a mile away. Braun Breaker hits the first car. When Bronson Reed got thrown on the second car and slid completely off on his back, you talk about a milestone bump. That bump looked absolutely amazing, and there's no way in hell you're going to tell me that was the intention of him getting thrown across the hood of that car. Not a chance in 400 hell.
No, because if you looked at Braun, he had that big framework up in his hands. He was going to drop it on him on top of the car, but he looked at Bronson Reed slid off, he just threw it down. It was great.
The whole thing ended with Strowman on top of the car. Bronson. Reed goes
Daniel
up.
Bryanson.
Arms up. We're not doing this. Reed goes up, gets on the cement wall next to it, dives off onto him. The windows shatter out of the side of this thing like a Hollywood movie, and we go to the break. And when we come back, it's the coolest aerial shot ever. You see like 6 cameramen filming this thing from the word go. It felt big budget. It was badass. Tip your cap. Top of the morning to you, whatever you want to say. Best segment on this show by far.
Yes. Did you see the rearview mirror up at the top of the windshield when he hit? It broke off and it sparked when it dropped down.
I sort of think that was rigged, though, myself. I thought that was rigged, but
it could be. Could have been, but don't know. Could have been, but how often do you see a rearview mirror collapse like that?
I don't know. The other part that I think everybody's been waiting on was Uncle Howdy and Chad Gable had a match.
Sure.
They had a match on Raw. You would have thought for sure the first time they touch would have been on a PLE. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very, very highly provocative that they would give this away as a main event on Raw. But a lot of people tuned in for it. I don't have the quarter hours in front of me. They're not out yet, but at what was that rating, Don?
1.769 million people.
It's pretty consistent with the upper echelon of ratings from what they've been doing. I think the lowest under Vince in the new era here was 1.1.
It was getting down. I think it was down there. Down there. I just want to touch on that because that's the coolest thing they've done on Raw in a long time. But this was cool too. I finally got to see Uncle Howdy in a match. I was surprised they gave it away. It didn't disappoint, and there's two people on both sides of the aisle.
Why's he got to wear that mask? That hair looks like it's getting in the way a lot. I don't know about that.
Have you ever seen Shawn Michaels wrestle?
You're a fucking mimic. Go ahead. The Rich Little. Now I'm dating myself.
It's the same guy
Rich
every
Little,
time.
Professional wrestling community. Go ahead.
It's the same shit every time.
Why? I don't understand. Why are they having this match?
I didn't give a shit. I love this. I thought it was great. Chad Gable lost, which I was kind of surprised at. I thought we'd have had some interference, a lot more interference where he got over. Like, you don't let the baby. I don't even know if you call Uncle Howdy the face of this department. It's just a weird vibe, but I'll go with it.
Weird vibe. The pre-tape showing Bo Dallas without the mask and black and white talking and rambling and rambling and rambling. His delivery is just like his brother, Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
The cadence, the accent, the voice, the whole thing.
I did my. Well, is there anything else that caught your attention? Do you remember about this show? Because there was one more segment that really got my attention.
What caught my attention was the girls in Damage Control look like about 100 of my Twitter followers that have no posts whatsoever. And sometimes you don't even see their faces. You just see the back of their heads.
Without Asuka, that thing's going nowhere. It's just not going anywhere.
She's got to come back soon.
They're doing 20 miles an hour on a treadmill, looking at the same setting sun, Garrett, getting nowhere fast.
Dakota Kai's hurt. Asuka's hurt. Their faces now. What made them baby faces? Who knows? They're fighting the evil lesbians. What happened to the party girls and Lyra Valkyria? What happened to them? Where are they? I don't understand it. It's like they're just rolling the dice with the women's division. And where's Tegan Knox? What the hell ever happened to her?
I don't know. I heard she was
hurt,
but I don't know.
Happy-go-lucky lesbian Tegan Knox. She must be out in catering.
I thought she got hurt, from what I understand.
I don't think she's hurt. They're trying to figure out what to do with her.
I don't know what to do with this new faction that they named that I can't stand the name of. It's the worst shit ever.
Pure Fusion Collective.
It's the worst. This is some gobbledygook bullshit that has no business in it. Somebody take that away. One of the girls should come on camera and say, by the way, we hate that name. Here's who we really are. And go from there.
We've changed the name. F you, we changed the name.
Yeah, exactly. We're not doing Collective. This bullshit.
It sounds like that sounds like a strange club that you would meet after school.
Yeah,
in.
It sounds like a 2002 Millennial Club after school special.
Would you guys like to meet at the Pure Fusion Collective? We're over in Hall H.
I'll be there.
We're going to talk about AEW. That's what we talk about. Every week we talk about AEW Collision, Dynamite, Rampage. Oh, my God, that Brian Cage and Sammy Guevara, they both wore the same outfit at the pay-per-view. Did you see that? Oh, my God.
I'll bring my lizard collection.
I can hardly wait.
You know what I could bet you could wait for? Jey Uso versus Kofi versus Karrion Kross and the
Kiss my ass.
Oh, you knew where this was going. Jey Uso won. I'm not going to get into the details on this thing. I'm not going to get into it because look, the entrance is over. And after not seeing him the last couple of weeks, it felt like maybe they revitalized who he was as a character.
We have to talk about his moron father right now. We've got to talk about his moron father.
Go ahead.
Rikishi was on a podcast this over the weekend, And he talked about how he told Jay, you ought to go start looking for other places to go because they're not writing you right. They're not booking you right over there. Plenty of places to go to. One place is paying a lot of money.
This reminds me of a guy named Peyton Manning when he got mad at his kicker in the Pro Bowl and the kicker ran off at the mouth. This is sort of like this moment. Like, because some goddamn kicker got liquored up and ran his mouth. That's how he feels about his dad. My dad got liquored up and ran his mouth about something he has no business talking about. It's my career, Dad. Enjoy your retirement. This is me now. I'm doing what I need to do.
Rikishi's a lunatic. He remember a couple of months ago, he said that they were looking at making him the referee for the War Games match at Survivor Series between the Bloodline and Cody and friends. They were looking at him being the referee. You heard that. We talked about it. And that was all horse shit.
Ricky, I did it for The Rock. That's what he's most famous for. That's the biggest angle he ever did.
And then he got thrown into faces in his ass.
Yes, and then he got thrown into a shit truck and fell off the top of a cage in that match. That's what he's known for. I liked him, but dude, know your lane right now. The other part of Raw that was really big was the Randy Orton promo. I thought he hit this out of the park.
Fantastic.
He was going down it. I will say this much about Randy Orton. When he talks, nobody thinks he's full of shit, and nobody thinks he's just bumping his gums. Which, by the way, did you see that Machine Gun Kelly started bumping his guns today on
I saw that, yeah.
On the podcast show with what's his name? Paul Dipshit. What's his name?
Logan Paul on the podcast Impulsive.
Yes.
Play on words.
He was on that Dipshit's podcast.
What did he say?
And said that he got backstage, got in Randy Orton's face, and told him what he thought of him when he was running his mouth out there in the match. And I said, 2 things never happened. That's one of them. He did not get in his face. He might have stood behind his bodyguards talking shit. But you're not that stick-figured jackass is not standing in front of Randy Orton saying boo to a goose, as they say. He ain't saying shit. Nothing. Dude's aside. He looks like the local crackhead on the corner over here in downtown Virginia. Just sitting there smoking that shit. Standing there like a zombie.
He was at that last pay-per-view. And I said, who is this guy? MGK? Wait a minute. Is that Machine Gun Kelly? You said, yeah, that's him. I said, that doesn't even look like Machine Gun Kelly. He dumped Megan Fox, I guess, and he's dating a girl named Methany, if you know what I'm saying.
I see where you went there with that joke, Bottles.
Yes.
That's all I took out of Raw. 1.7969 million. We both agreed it was not their strongest show that they've had the last couple of weeks. But for a go-home show, it hit all the right notes. And it didn't put any of the major stars in danger. And I told you, Gunther is overseas right now touring. And who did I tell you he's wrestling?
I forgot. Ilya Dragunov. Ilya Dragunov. They're running that back. Probably testing to see how the houses react to that match overseas. I'll save you the trouble, fellas. WWE management. They'll react fantastically. Put it in the United States. Put it on a PLE. The place will go nuts to see these two guys wrestle. Fantastic stuff.
I want to thank everybody for watching this evening. I hope you guys are having a good start to your week. Please like and subscribe. Hit that notifications button. Ring-a-ling on the ding-a-ling so when we go live.
Please.
You know about it. We are almost to 1,000. We're at 951. The last show did 1,000. We're looking to keep that up. We appreciate you guys. Like and share with your family. Say, hey, mom, hey, sister, hey, cousin. Like this and subscribe to this. I don't care if you never watch it. It helps us get out there in the algorithm of YouTube and helps us promote the shit out of this channel.
Say, hey, Mom, have you heard about the Squared Circle Maniacs? Oh, those sons of bitches. That's what she'll
All right,
say.
so you've heard of us. Again, I want to thank everybody. The Super Chat's open. If you got something to say, we're going to move this show along because Johnny Bottles subjected himself to the All In live watch-along of the pay-per-view for AEW. I was smart about this, and I sat here and I said, I'm going to watch the live tweets because they always put them out there as soon as shit goes down. And I said, I'll watch this preview shit and see what this is about. And the first preview match was a 16-man tag match. And I said, no, thank you. No, thank you.
buddy.
This is
they
needless.
This is
Bottles.
the pre-show. The pre-show.
I know.
They loaded up. I don't understand if you're trying to save money. Oh well, Denisha's got one. Denisha, thank you for the super chat, $4.99. Rikishi, he needs to stay grandpa place like he has no other kids to Jay as a grown-ass man. With kids. Rikishi, stay at your grandpa place. Well, he's overlooked. He's overshadowed by his children now. Solo, Jimmy, and Jay. And what's the other one? Zilla? Zilla Fatu is on the indies right now, and he's kicking ass. They're all huge. Zilla Nightingale. No, he hasn't urinated in the ring, Don.
Thank you, Denisha. And I agree with what she's saying, man. It's just, you had your moment in the sun. There's no need for this, man.
It's over. It's over. All you got to do is say, hey, Jay, how about dip it in the pocket and buy me a BMW, will you? For my fat ass and tool around town in. That's all he's got to say. If he's falling on hard times, do the hard times. If he's falling on hard times,
I ain't doing it now. Nope, because we're going to get through this.
Son of a bitch!
This pay-per-view is hard times. This pay-per-view was hard times. Thank you again, Denisha. We love you. Thank you for coming to the super chat. Always appreciated. The 16 tag man bullshit was not appreciated.
This
Apparently,
is the
was
pre-show,
that
correct? YouTube.
Yes.
I didn't see the pre-show, Don, because I was going to watch the media scrum afterwards, and it was already going to be 6 hours of my life on a Sunday afternoon I would never get back. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that pay-per-view started due to Great Britain time, London time. So I tuned in and just dealt with, I couldn't start at 11 and watch that YouTube show. I just couldn't do it. I saw a graphic for one of those matches that looked like a crowd. It looked like a crowd, like a pep rally. It would look ridiculous. It looked like a football team lined up. 2 football teams. It was horrible. So I just opted not to watch the YouTube part of it and did what I had to do. Tony, this is another example of how this company cannot save money. He can't budget his money because he flies these people when he pays for all their airfare. Okay? He pays for all their hotel accommodations. WWE does not pay for the hotel accommodations. They never have. You pick your own hotel. They give you suggestions, but you have to find your own hotel and book your own reservations. They will pay for your airfare, but they will not pay for a rental car in the U.S. to drive from place to place, or if you're in Europe, to drive a rental car from the hotel to the facility. They will not do that. Tony Khan wants to be everybody's pal and get as many people on the pay-per-view as possible. He's the boss. Save a goddamn buck.
Well, here's the thing, right? They used to not pay for it. I don't know if they've started a per diem now or how that works because of how much everything's changed. I wouldn't imagine they'd be paying for their hotel or their car.
They are.
I'm talking about WWE.
Oh, WWE, okay.
They might be paying for their hotels now since they're telling them they got to stay the night.
No, that's why these guys buy tour buses.
I would be curious. Well, you might be onto something there, actually. Of course, they also just like to be with their family. I'd like to get a current wrestler and ask them just that one question. Do you have to pay for your rental car still and your hotel rooms?
Hang on a second.
Yeah, okay.
Paul Crowbar.
Yeah, I'm sure.
What?
He hasn't wrestled with them in forever. We're not going to bother that man tonight. He just had major surgery on his elbow. Did you see that shit?
Yeah, he had like a elbow hematoma or whatever it was. A bursa sac burst, and they sliced his elbow open. It's all stapled up. Brutal.
That
looks like something out of a Frankenstein flick. But at any rate, I'm not even going to cover the pre-show because it's all garbage.
I'm just going to.
You don't need to see.
Let me run through this.
You don't need to see Satnam.
I want everyone to understand how much they endured to watch this shit. Willow Nightingale and Ishii versus Statlander and Stokely Hathaway had a match. That'll put some asses in the seats.
Why?
Then they had dude, it gets better. Then they had another 10-man tag team match.
For no reason. None of these guys are interrelated whatsoever.
It's just it's a match to have a match. It's just awful. It's just awful. That's all I can say. It's just awful.
Right.
Then this is where it gets good.
Go ahead. Does it get good? How good does it get? I can't wait to hear this.
Wish.com's Becky Lynch returned.
Jamie Hayter is actually a good wrestler.
I'm going to have my moment of the sun, and here's why. All of the die-hard neckbeards have been going off the rails for the past 2 weeks that there could possibly be a Becky Lynch sighting. There's somebody with red hair that they've seen. Blah, blah, blah. The whispers are imminent. She's going to come in. They've removed her from the WWE website. That's a sure bet that she's definitely coming in now. We're also going to get a Taylor Swift concert. She's in town that week. Tony Khan's going to give us all of these things, and then he promptly shit on your dinner plate, and you got none of this. You lose. Good day, sir.
I don't even like corn. I don't even like corn.
I just do not give a shit about any of this. This is where the show was this the last pre-show match, or did it get real now? I mean, when did it start? When did you start watching it?
I started watching it. It started with the Bang Bang Gang.
Oh, shit.
The Guns and Juice Robinson versus the House of Black versus the Patriarchy, Christian's group. The Patriarchy at this point in time, when this match started, consisted of Luchasaurus, Killswitch. You can call him Killswitch all you want to. The crowd cheered and chanted for Luchasaurus like he was John Cena. Nick Wayne and Nick Wayne's mother. Those were the three that were the trios team versus the Gun Brothers and Juice Robinson and the three schmucks from the House of Black. The malcontents, if you believe the news, from the House of Black. And they weren't in black, they were in gray. And they had black and white makeup. They looked horrible. Brody Lee was barking like Braun Breaker. He was barking like Rick Steiner. He was doing all that.
He actually showed up.
I'm going, what
Ron
the hell
Breaker
is going
showed up
on?
with an actual dog last night, which was fun.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that clip. I will say, let me put this in perspective for you if you didn't see the pay-per-view. It looked like AEW's version of a Raw show. A lot of people in the stands. It was brightly lit. They could show all sides of the ring with the cameras. It was shot well. I will say that. But it was the same old bullshit that you would see on Dynamite.
Question,
but it looked
models.
better.
Question.
What's that? Yeah.
How long did you say you watched for this thing? How long was it?
It was from 1 to 5.
So 4 hours. And
yes,
the pre-show
and
was 2 hours.
Yes, and there was a 2-hour media scrum on YouTube afterwards, which I watched. And that was just excruciating.
I don't know how you said to it.
The pay-per-view had moments of goodness. It really did.
Well, I know, and that's what I want to talk about. But I want to talk about when we
goodness.
get to them. I want to talk about that when we get to that match. This was
Dude,
not a moment of goodness, correct?
This was. The Bang Bang Gang versus the House of Black versus the Patriarchy was a good match. A big crowd. They were into it. Everything. The action was fast-moving. The Bang Bang Gang did the Dudley Boys "What's up" when Juice Robinson yelled, "Get the tables." No, they yelled to Juice, "Juice, get the tables." And Juice went out and got a table. And then Christian Cage ran down to the ring. Then he gets a beat down by everyone else in the match. 6 men beat the shit out of Christian Cage outside the ring before he could get in the ring. Mrs. Wayne, while all this is taking place, the lovely Mrs. Wayne started climbing the ladder, because this is a ladder match. You have to go and take one of the belts down off the hook where the 3 belts are hanging above the ring. She started climbing the ladder. And as she was climbing the ladder, Killswitch climbed up the other side. Got her down.
Why would Killswitch get her down if they're on the same team?
Because the other guys were coming for her. So he got her down, and he took on all these other guys. And he was booked like Kane, even though he's as tall as the Gun Boys. But he was booked like Kane, throwing guys around, choke slams, clotheslines. But they're all the same size as him. 12 guys in this match is just too much.
You just said it was good, though.
I'm not 12 guys. 9 guys in this match is just too much.
You know what it is, Bottles?
But I will say one thing. I will say one thing about the Patriarchy. Killswitch was over his shit. They were chanting Luchasaurus, bop, 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 Luchasaurus, bop, 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 bop. And Nick Wayne, that little guy, Nick Wayne, who is just normally a pain in the ass. He is fast as hell. He's quick, flies all around the ring, and he sells. He actually sells when he's hurt, which is amazing to me.
Because he's 110 pounds, and he has to, because he's really getting the shit kicked out of him.
And it was another... It was a regular aspect of these matches with all these guys in the ring. They don't know how to book it, where everybody's laying outside the ring, and 2 or 3 guys are in the ring doing a piece of business, and they get hurt, and they fall down and roll out of the ring, and 2 or 3 other guys run in and do their piece of business. Like they're all not in the ring. Yeah, I did actually forget the team that actually won. It was the
nobodies. It was Pac, Castagnoli, and Wheeler, which makes no sense.
No.
That's who won. And Denise, I see your comment. We are going to talk about that in just a minute, I promise.
The Blackpool Combat Club won. And Pac was teamed up with these guys. And you try to find an explanation of why he's doing it. He's just taking John Moxley's place. It was Claudio, and it was Pac, and it was, what's his name? Wheeler Useless. And
it makes no sense. It makes no fucking sense.
The only guy that made any impact in that match was Pac. He did the, whatever you call that, the poison arrow, the falcon arrow, whatever the hell that flippy, dippy shit he does off the top rope. He did that outside the ring on top of the guys. And it was good. It actually was a good match. Christian was irate.
I know what's going on here.
What's going on here?
You have Stockholm Syndrome. You were kidnapped into this show.
I tried to like it done.
Subjected to this. And this ending makes no sense. 3 guys that have never teamed up before, or a guy that's never teamed up with them is suddenly involved in this, and now it's a team. It's a trios champion.
They are planning ahead because the Lucha Brothers are gone. They're leaving. Pac is a ship just sailing on his own, and they dragged him in because they needed a British guy in the Blackpool Combat Club because they got no British guys in there. So they needed a British guy.
Start the truck. We're heading to Florida. Bottles has been replaced by a body snatcher.
This is one of the best matches on the show. This is one of the best matches on the show for my money. The action was nonstop. It was nonstop.
It was every AEW is nonstop.
Look.
You liked it, okay.
I'm going to tell you this, okay? I'm going to tell you this. If you've got a turkey that you just cooked for Thanksgiving that's stuffed with shit.
This match was a fucking turkey.
If it's stuffed with shit, and you've got a meatloaf casserole that's covered with shit, which you got to look at what you're going to take a bite out of. Because you got to take a bite out of one of them.
I'm not eating a bite out of
you got to like one of them, pal.
No, I'm not.
You got to like one of them.
I'm not eating the feces and telling you that it's okay. This sounds like it was total ass. I'll give you this much. The next match I would believe was pretty good because it was timeless Toni Storm and Mariah May. It got good reviews from everything I saw. It was 2 women that had a professional match. You knew that Mariah May was going to win. It's time to make her a star. Toni Storm's had the belt for what, almost a year? Not quite a year. What, 8 months or so?
Not quite a year. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was time to make her.
A star's entrance for Toni Storm. Star's entrance.
You want to know what I read about this?
What's that?
Nothing embarrassing. They put on a solid performance. It was a good women's match. That's everything that I read. Where am I wrong?
You were not wrong at all. All I could say is Toni Storm looked like a star. They had a great entrance for her. Mariah May is now orange. She's pumpkin colored. A little too much spray tan. Tits McGee was in the stands watching the whole thing.
Of course she was.
It broke down to a female chop fest on their jugs. A lot of Nigel McGuinness announcing on this show. All these matches, he was just running his mouth. Tony Schiavone's terrible. I'm just reading these bullet points I wrote down. Mariah May slapped her own mother in the face at ringside. For no reason. Just walked up to her and slapped the taste out of her mouth. And Tony walked over and hugged her mother, meaning Mariah May's mother. And Mariah May got busted open by taking a header into the steps, courtesy of Tony. A little piece of business over the shoe that she busted Toni Storm open with on Dynamite. She brought that to the ring. A little piece of business over that, Don. And Luther got kneed in the face by Mariah May. He got knocked out. She knees Tony in the head twice, gives her a pile driver. New champ, Mariah May.
There you go.
And then you
That's
heard the ring announcer who was just horrible. The entire he is just Justin Roberts is the shits. Your new women's champion, Mariah May. That's how he said it.
Of course he did.
Mariah May. Like he's depressed.
I didn't think this would be a bad match. I knew it would be decent for a women's match. I'm not a big women's wrestling fan. We know that. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We got a big crowd out here tonight. I want to thank you all. Please like and subscribe. If you got something to super chat, let us know. Hit the notifications button because next is the biggest bunch of bullshit. And I don't want to talk about this. I'm not going to cover this because the most exciting thing about this match is what happened in the post-match interview and the actual media scrum. Chris Jericho versus Hook for the FTW championship. Hook was going to win. You knew he was going to win. They had tax and shit I heard in this thing. Just nonsense.
Here's what happened.
The cricket
Jericho
ball.
came out. He came out with his two boys. And, hi, guys. Welcome to the learning tree. And then Fozzy was on stage. And Fozzy played some shitty goddamn song. Stoplight or Starlight. I couldn't even bother
Did you see? I don't mean to interrupt you, but did you see the fans when that happened?
Yes. He was singing, and the fans said, okay, let's go get a beer. And they all got up.
They showed the fans leaving in droves when this started to go take a leak, get a beverage, get some popcorn, anything other than hear a 50-something-year-old never was sing a song on something they don't care about.
I wrote that it was some song with Fozzy, a big spectacle, and this guy's the heel. This is something that the babyface would do.
Yes.
Not the heel. The heel shouldn't be doing this. Hook came out to a wet fart. A wet fart.
That sounds about right.
Hardly any cheers. Taz came out to commentate. Jericho was wearing those little shorty short trunks. He looked ridiculous. It only makes him look fatter. He needs to wear the long boys. Big Bill and Low Plains Drifter just beat down Hook. So because it's FTW rules. So Hook's basically fighting three guys. And Aubrey Edwards, I said, what is she doing in this match? It's like when somebody's in a what? She's down on all fours.
You okay?
Yeah. Every time she chops, she's throwing her hair around. She didn't have it in a ponytail for this show like she usually does. I guess she's trying to pick up some guy, some British guy. Maybe she thinks she's got some money over there. I don't know.
Look, here's the thing. I know
horrendous.
they got out.
Always in the wrong
balls.
spot.
It doesn't matter.
Always in the wrong spot. She was always too close to the wrestlers. On her knees in the corner. Just drop down her knees and just watching the action. Why not just stand up? I just don't understand this bullshit. Hook pops off the eye patch and says, guess what I can see? Why come out with it on?
Why?
Taz gets pissed off because of all the interference. He gets up from the announce table, throws his headset down, and Taz looks like, I don't know what's going on with Taz's joints.
He looks like
and
Ishii.
shoulders. He looks like Ishii crossed with the Frankenstein monster. He sneaks up on Low Plains Drifter. And as Hook puts Jericho in the Taz mission, Taz puts Low Plains Drifter in the Taz mission. And the 300-pound, 6'9" or 6'11" man who's in this whole conglomeration also, is laying passed out on the far side of the ring, on the floor. Don't understand it. Hook wins the Fuck the World Championship. He submitted Jericho.
Okay,
you knew it was going to happen.
I want to get to this.
Just
I don't want to get into the details of all of that on the next one because there's one big thing that happened in the next match, and I want to talk about that. The rest of it doesn't even matter. What matters in this match is the FTW Championship belt is meaningless and has nothing to do with AEW. The belt had a unification match in ECW a long time ago. Right. This was a belt that Taz created because he was so tired of having so many of his storylines go to shit because of injuries. So he made this belt to represent those. And it sort of got over with the crowd because at the time they had a lot of people leaving, which left the title vacant, which meant they had sort of a a chump champion standing there, not a real ECW champion. So they had a unification belt almost 30 years ago. Lo and behold, we fast forward to today. The belt shows back up when Taz was a manager, not a commentator, and he just said, here's my new FTW champion. It doesn't mean anything. That's the whole problem with all these titles. They don't mean anything because there's so many. What is an FTW champion? What is an international champion? What is the TBS champion or the TNT champion? Because you don't know what they stand for. When there was a television champion, such as Arn Anderson, it meant every week you were going to get an Arn Anderson match. That's what that meant. When you had Ric Flair as the world heavyweight champion, it meant he was traveling to your town to defend that title. That's what it meant. When it was the U.S. title, it meant he was defending it against foreign heels mainly. Not always, but mainly. That's what the
every
US
match
was built on.
Every match. Every match with AEW. Every match on AEW television is a FTW match because anything goes. No countouts. Stay outside the ring as long as you want. Go get a kendo stick. We've got a gross of them underneath the ring. It's all horse shit, Don. It's all bullshit.
The reason I bring that up is because in the post-interview scrum, the after the birth, whatever the hell you want to call it, someone asked Tony Khan, does this belt even mean anything? And he took great offense to that question. Got super butthurt, got very upset at the reporter. It's a real question. Why is this belt here? You have 15 titles. You have titles of a dead television show that's not on TV anymore that you defend on your program. What the hell are we doing here, Tony? I don't get this at all. Anyway, on to the next match. I don't give a shit.
The next match, the Young Bucks versus FTR versus the Acclaimed.
I
didn't care either. I said this is what I wrote down. Young Bucks, it's a fast-moving show because this is 1 hour in they're on the fourth match after 1 hour. 2 o'clock, they're at the fourth match of the show, which is pretty amazing for AEW. Young Bucks got hit with CM Punk chants. Nick Jackson yells back at the fans. He says, "You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for us." 3 teams I hate, belts in the ring to whack people in the head with, and the Bucks pin FTR.
There you go.
End of story there. End of story there. The grizzled, hang on a second, the grizzled young veterans from NXT. 2 British guys who didn't do a goddamn thing, and NXT came in the ring to crickets, and they challenged the Bucks, and they beat up FTR.
And no one gives a shit.
And they're British guys, and no one gave a shit.
I'm going to get to this because I'm not going to talk about the Casino Gauntlet match, about what happened in the match. Here's what's important. Ricochet made his debut.
Yes.
Their biggest star that they've signed from WWE in a year or more, I'd say, right?
No, they signed Monet, who was bigger than Ricochet.
She was gone from WWE a long time, though, before she signed with them. He just
she
left.
Still was with WWE. He just left. Okay.
Okay.
That doesn't mean he was a bigger star than Mercedes Moné or Sasha Banks. He's a mid-card guy. He's a mid-card guy. He's going to be a mid-card guy now.
What is Monet right now?
Horrible.
Okay, I'll rest my case.
Horrible.
Jesus,
God almighty. Let's not fist fight over this shit.
You could have Ricochet debut on Wednesday night this week and a mystery opponent for some title that doesn't mean shit because none of them do, right? I'm just spitballing here.
He's here to face Will Ospreay.
Hold on. He debuts on this shit to do a million moves in the rings, only to have Christian Cage win this damn thing, to now have a shot at the world title, which, by the way, he just had a shot at the world title a couple of months ago after he lost the TNT title. This is the booking that makes no sense in this company. You wasted this. This is the shit Vince McMahon used to do when he would get big-name free agents. He'd have them lose in their first match. So you were like, well, I don't give a shit about this guy now.
Visualize Alpha Academy. Visualize Alpha Academy in WWE, and if there was a Money in the Bank match, Otis would fight everybody off so Chad Gable could climb up the ladder to get the briefcase. This is the equivalent of what Luchasaurus did for Christian Cage in this match. He beat a guy up and pinned him while he knocked him down, and have Christian Cage pin him. He could have pinned him. The crowd's chanting Luchasaurus. They're going crazy over the guy for some ungodly reason. Jeff Jarrett came out to a huge pop in this. They love Jeff Jarrett for some reason. The ring cleared out for Jeff Jarrett, so he even did the Fargo strut, Don. Did the Fargo strut. The guys were coming out, and some guys it was 2 minutes between guys coming out and 20 seconds between guys coming out. It sped up in the middle of the whole thing. Nigel McGuinness came out, the announcer.
Bottles, we got 4 more matches to get through here, pal.
Dude, I'm just saying, he came out and he got a standing ovation. It was
the most important thing about this was Ricochet debuted and lost. Shit makes no sense. And today, by the way, and this is sort of what it brings back to the head. Today on Twitter, Ricochet was tweeting people, and a fan happened to tell him today on the flight, hey, man, I really liked you in WWE. I'm going to be sorry I don't get to see you anymore, but I don't watch that shit. That's what she told him. He's like, I understand if you're a fan of mine, why wouldn't you watch this show? She said, I'll try to tune in for your matches, but I can't stand the fans, and I can't stand half the garbage they put out there. And this is what brings me back to what this whole show was about, was the Great Divide. Ricochet couldn't understand why. And by the way, he tweeted back, well, I want a flight because somebody asked him, why are you engaging all the fans today? You never do this. He said, I'm on a 10-hour flight and I'm bored out of my mind. So that sort of made me laugh. Mm-hmm. But the point here being is the fans between these two companies is getting more and more obvious as far as there being a direct split down the middle. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to look at the big billion-dollar company and start pointing fingers at them and blaming them and saying it's their fault. And they don't want to take any of the, and I'm not saying that they haven't taken a shot here and there. Triple H certainly has. Not nearly as egregious as some of the shit Tony Khan has said, but he's taken a shot here and there. My issue is that Tony Khan continues to poke the bear, continues to say shit like the Weinstein Company, just lobs grenades behind him casually at the WWE's general direction, and then he gets all pissed off when they do things like book a live show in the same town he's running when he has a pay-per-view there that night. Quit fucking with the WWE. Quit dividing the fan base. You're an asshole for doing it. And it's getting to the point now where I am openly starting to root against these assholes because Tony Khan is such a mark for his own booking. It is getting to the point that I can't stand these wrestling accounts on Twitter because of this shit. Ricochet doesn't even understand. I swear to God, I don't think he does. How divisive Tony Khan has made so many fans when they tune this shit in and they see this garbage product and the terrible storylines. What is it? 6 of the 9 champions in his company are ex-WWE stars. Mm-hmm. How many stars has Tony Khan actually made? And I do mean made. Like, you knew them from this company. They got over this company. 3 or 4, maybe. MJF is a huge star. There's no denying that. He's over. Give me another one.
Mariah May.
Mariah May's over. I'll give you that one.
Tony Storm.
She's getting. Tony Storm's another one.
She's bigger than she was in WWE. Yeah. I'd have to say a year ago.
Maybe Darby Allin. Maybe Darby Allin.
Darby Allin, dude.
Maybe.
Now. Daisy Dukes
I know
Darby.
who he is.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people knew who Charles Manson was, too.
Well, you got a point there.
Yes.
And when I say huge stars, I mean they draw a number. They get 1 million people watching them every time they're on TV because their segment's on. Case in point.
Well, that would leave out Darby Allin. That would leave out Mariah May.
You're right. It would.
And Tony Storm.
They're
not getting 1 million anymore.
Well, none of them are anymore because the booking is so shit. You've watered down the entire product. Case in point. When CM Punk comes on TV, we have discussed this on this show several times. The number goes up between 250 and 350,000 people every time his segment is on TV.
Sure.
Every time.
To your point about Tony Khan lobbing grenades over his shoulder at WWE, I remember just 2 weeks ago when a podcaster asked him, would you be opposed to doing a joint show? A joint promotion show with the WWE. I'd be, I would do that. Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, I'm in favor for that. A company that's plotting against him, allegedly. He's paranoid. He's a lunatic. Come on now. Will Ospreay came out with parkour dancers. It didn't care about this whatsoever. The whole thing seems paint by numbers. MJF came out in red, white, and blue and an Apollo Creed top hat, like Uncle Sam. Shivani said about MJF, he doesn't care about America. He doesn't care about the lineage of the title he holds. The title he holds has only been around for less than a year.
He made the shit up. He made the title up. What are we talking about here? I don't want to.
It was the international title. It was the international title. It's only a year old. Now it's the American title. Shivani needs to just fucking shut the fuck up.
I don't want to get the minutia of this match. I'm sure it wasn't embarrassing. I heard it was a decent match. My issue is how this whole thing ended with the referee putting his foot on the chest of MJF.
That's when he was being awarded the new belt. Garcia interfered. He was a masked man. He interfered, distracted MJF. Ospreay hit the hidden blade move. He kept teasing the whole time through this short feud. He pinned MJF. And Christopher Daniels, also known as Dollar Store Adam Pearce, came out with the actual international title, the old international title.
Yes.
And presented it to Will Ospreay because he's not.
And off we go to Candyland. We're all
and the ref had his foot on MJF's chest, I guess, to keep him in the ring, to make it look like, okay, you get your ass beat. Will Ospreay's the champ. I don't.
Which will make me ask this question: who booked this shit?
Who booked it? You know who booked this shit. You know who.
Again, I'm not going to get into this. I've seen the highlights off of this.
What's that?
Britt Baker, Mercedes Moné, god awful match. That was botchamania. The end of this thing literally looked like Mercedes Moné because it looked like Britt Baker had boo-boo face from day one. We said this last week. She had boo-boo face. The match looked like she had boo-boo face. Mercedes literally whips her into the ropes to make her hit the ground and just says, fuck it, we're going home. And there you go, Mercedes retains.
It was a bad Dynamite match. No heat to this whatsoever. No heat. The crowd was not into this match whatsoever. Back and forth with the glove. They're swapping, they're taking turns putting the glove on that Baker uses for the mandible claw. Baker moved like she had lead boots on. She was horrible. And she pins Baker. Moné pins Baker after a short backbreaker thing. It wasn't really her full finisher. It was horrible. And I was not disappointed in the stiffness and the sandbagging that was going on in this match. Next up was Darby versus Perry.
I don't want to talk about this. I really don't. I don't have the intestinal fortitude in this, man.
Darby Allin crazy glued thumbtacks to his face to use as a weapon to headbutt Jack Perry. That's all you really need to know. And a big fuck CM Punk chant when Jack Perry dumped a bag of broken glass chips all over the ring, which he got backdropped on. And then Darby was beaten up.
Hold on before you go on.
His legs. Go ahead.
Why is this a year later and CM Punk is still rent-free in these people's heads a year later? They cannot let this go. It's embarrassing at this point in time, man.
Absolutely.
It's embarrassing at this point in time.
It's just the shits, Don. The whole thing was the shits. Darby Allin was beaten up, tied his wrists together. Jack Perry tied his legs together. He threw him off the stage through a table, stuffed him into a body bag, dumped him into a coffin. In the end, Jack Perry won. The Bucks came out with a gallon of gas, doused the coffin with gas. They're about to light it on fire. And it's Sting! A man who's been retired wobbles to the ring with his new hair plugs, and a black baseball bat, and a 65-year-old man chased all these young guys away with the baseball bat, saved Darby Allin, pulled him out of the coffin. Man. Pulled him out of the coffin, unzipped the body bag. Darby's gasped me for breath, looking like a Family Dollar pinhead from the Hellraiser movie. And then Sting realizes, hey, I left my bat in the ring. He walked over to collected his bat and walked away with it like it's a souvenir. End of story. And one thing about this show I would have to point out, I pointed out to you the other day when we were talking about it, there were no replays on this show
of the winners.
Of the winners, meaning if you went to the kitchen to get 2 more beers and a plate of Hot Pockets out of the microwave, and all of a sudden you hear Moné wins, or it's Sting, and you walk back out, the match is over. They did not show you who got pinned, how they got pinned, any interference like WWE would. None of that. Let's go to the next match, because they had a curfew. They had to get out of Wembley.
They were running late at this point in time. I read they were running late. Because they had a cutoff, I think, of 10 o'clock. They had to go home.
They cut time off of this match, the Perry match. Swerve and Daniel Bryanson.
Okay, hold on. Don't give us a full recap. The show's running long. Did you think this was a good match? Did you think it rated on a good scale? I've read that this was a better match. I've read that it had a good finish. I've read that it was all put together well. I've only seen a couple of the highlights myself.
Jim, it was a good match. Didn't need the blood, I don't think. But, yeah, that's your cup of tea. That's fine. Jim Ross came out to announce this match, to do color. Jim Ross should not be anywhere near a microphone ever again. Jim Ross came out and said, he sounds like he's 100 years old, by the way. He said 25 years ago he signed Bryan Danielson to his first pro contract. Where? When? He was an announcer for the WWE. When did he sign Bryan Danielson to a contract, a pro contract?
I think he signed with WWE back then to their development back then.
They didn't have NXT back then.
No, it wasn't NXT. It was Ohio Valley.
He wasn't in Ohio Valley Wrestling.
I don't know. It's what the man said.
He was in Ring of Honor 25 years ago. Bryan Danielson was in Ring of Honor wrestling Kingston, Samoa Joe, Nigel McGuinness, all that horse shit. And it was a Bryan Danielson match. That's all I can say. Hangman Page came out and tried to interfere to no avail. He got sent to the back. And Bryan Danielson won the match, of course. And, this is a guy who's got a lot of medical issues, a lot of health issues. His wife, Bree, was in the ring. And his 2 children, who he allowed to crawl around on that dirty, bloody, sweaty, piss-filled, because Willow Nightingale wrestled earlier. There's at least a half a pint of urine sprayed on that ring. And he let his kids run around and grab the confetti that was falling from the sky that was on the ring. And he thought nothing of it. Bloodied face. It's just... He told his oldest daughter, his only daughter, Birdie, his first child, that because she's starting softball soon and starting school soon, that he would be home for that. I'm thinking, motherfucker, you wrestle 1 day a week, if that.
Easy.
1 day a week, if that. Why do you have to quit?
Okay, hold on.
Was off.
Denisha brought something up that, thank you again for the super chat earlier. That was discussed, and it's been openly discussed all week on Twitter. And thank you for your review. I'm glad you sat through this because there's no way in hell I would. They have yet to announce the attendance at this show publicly.
It did not look like 52,000 people there.
It did not. I did see the shots of it. If you have ever been to a college football game or an NFL game and you sat in the stands and you've seen 60 to 75 to 80,000 people, you know what that looks like in an arena. You know what that looks like in the giant arenas, like in Dallas Stadium, where they can fit 110,000 people, which is why last year when they said 80-something thousand people were in attendance, I said, bullshit, that ain't 80,000 people. They might have 70, which it turns out that's what they had, was around 72,000 people. But you know the difference in what those sections look like when it's sold out, especially for like a concert. You know what that shit looks like on the grass area as well.
Exactly.
I am starting to wonder if this show had closer to 35 or 40,000 people there myself.
I think it did. I think it had about 35,000 people there. And he might have bought the extra tickets, 20,000 tickets, which he probably got at a discounted rate because he's a billionaire. So it's nothing to him. That's like him buying McDonald's for everybody backstage. It's nothing to him. So, with that being said, it looked like a well-lit, well-stocked Raw show is what it looked like in terms of being able to see the crowd, being able to see the wrestlers, being able to see the announcers and the crowd behind the announcers and all that. You could see everything. There was a small area to the right, the left of the screen, but the wrestlers' right when they were coming down the ramp that was tarped off. And the rest of it was wide open. The upper portions were all tarped off. You could see that. But the camera moved pretty quick. So the media scrum, Don.
Hold on. I want to say thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notifications button. We're a small-time podcast just starting out. We've been doing this for about a year now. again, hit that notifications button. Super Chat's open. You said something to me about this show that I wanted to make sure you brought up. They didn't have like a
with big
huge
dreams. Go ahead.
They didn't have a huge screen for the fans to watch the action. So if you were sitting in the back of this bitch, you saw nothing.
It turns out they did have 2 large screens.
Okay.
They were behind the fans. You were facing the ring. And the large screens, my hand to God, I saw people on Twitter saying this. 2 large screens, you're facing the ring, and the large screens were behind you. So you have to go like this.
Who the hell is that?
Going on? Yes.
Jesus.
Poor placement. Poor placement, Don. Poor placement.
I don't even know what to say about that. I don't. I want to thank you for watching that. I had a couple of news stories.
Are we going to talk about the media scrum?
No.
I just got a few quick notes from the media scrum. I'm not going to talk about Hulk. We covered that already.
Sucking my soul to live. Save it for Thursday. Save it for Thursday.
Save it for Thursday. Go ahead.
Ricky Starks is believed to be leaving now, finally, after 3 months of reporting that he's leaving. AEW says, we don't think he wants to be here anymore.
No shit.
No shit.
No shit.
Shit.
Was it all the videos from the summer of, not the summer, the winter of him working out with Jay Cargill, with Natty Neidhart and the Street Profits? What was it all him being at the Performance Center? And Jay Cargill says, look who showed up. He's laying in the ring at the Performance Center. Or him carrying Cody's bags into WrestleMania. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was what put him over the edge. There he is carrying Cody's bags.
Newsflash, sky's blue, water's wet.
Yes.
Unbelievable, man. It's just unbelievable. And again,
Don,
right, like I wherever he goes, I wish him the best of luck, just like Ricochet. I hope Ricochet works out in AEW like Swerve Strickland has, right? Like, yes. I really do. I hope that he works out. When I look at Swerve Strickland right now, I always think to myself, the best thing that happened to that guy was he was fired because he had to reinvent himself, and it worked out well. Swerve Strickland a year ago was the most over wrestler in that company. Fast forward a year later, and the shitty booking of his character has put him in the toilet. It's a damn shame what they've done to him, and I wanted to cover this real quick. Swerve Strickland signed a contract extension allegedly through 2028. Did you hear about this?
I did hear about that. Yes, he's going to be there a while. Don.
And this is what I talk about the tribalism aspect of wrestling. It doesn't bother me that he's going to stay there. I hope he continues to do well, right? I hope that anybody that signs on with this company does well for their own career. What I don't understand is why when wrestlers change house and go somewhere else, why do people take the shit so goddamn personally? Why do you take it so personally? They're not taking food off your table. They're trying to improve their family, man. Like, deal with it. Are you that shallow of a human you can't be happy with somebody?
They're just trying to live, Don. That's all. Just trying to live.
Did you and I lose our shit when Edge showed up in AEW? We said, okay, that's a different path. I wouldn't have done it, but I hope he does well. And then he broke his fucking leg.
Don. Horrible.
Are you having issues over there?
I'm just, I'm plugging in my headphones, pal, because my earbuds are dying.
Oh, so well, you should charge them bitches, huh?
So I got to switch things over, Don.
Did you see that Gable Stevenson's was released today? Today was a big day in the NFL. It's cut down day. If you watch NFL, you know what that means. You got to get your rosters down to 53 people. Gable Stevenson's was trying to try out for the NFL. Hell of an athletic guy, ex-WWE wrestler, ex-US Olympian. I wish the best for him. He can still get picked up on a practice squad, so don't close the door on his NFL career yet.
What are you talking about?
I was just talking about how Gable Stevenson's is released from the Bills.
Yes, you saw my little thing I got.
No, I'm reading it right now. You are far away from that microphone. Something's changed here, pal.
I'm here right now, pal.
It's suddenly quiet.
Hang on, pal.
Anyway, that was another part of the story I want to talk about. Bruce Pritchard had some comments. I'm not going to cover on that right quick. We're going to have some stories. We're going to have some updated. Yep, there you go.
Oh, let me take this down. What stories, Don? Pray tell.
Well, we're going to talk about some of the highlights from some of the news this week. I'm looking forward to Thursday's show. We're going to cover the AEW All In. Bryan Danielson is supposed to make his future plans announcements. I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait to see what he has to say. I don't believe he's going to retire right away. I believe we're going to see something else happen. He's going to have a match. I think he wrestles through the end of the year, Bottles. What do you think?
I think you're correct. He's going to wrestle to the end of the year. That was the original plan. He said December 31st he was done. And Nigel McGuinness made a comeback.
Here we go.
Nigel McGuinness made a comeback in the Casino Battle Royal. The announcer, Nigel McGuinness, who will still be an announcer for AEW. But he decided to come back for one last match with Daniel Bryan, or as people call him, Bryan Danielson, or some people call him Daniel Bryanson.
Or Danielson Bryanson.
Or Danielson Bryanson. Yeah, Danielson Bryanson. He sounds like a Swedish guy. He was pitched that last year, the comeback for Wembley. He says, well, I was open to the suggestion, open to the idea when I originally signed with AEW. I took a flight cross-country with Tony, and he said, I got to swear to you secrecy. I'm telling you something right now you can't tell another soul. We're doing Wembley Stadium. I was like, oh, my God, that's just, the idea occurred to me. Could you? Should you? Meaning come back and wrestle, of course. Because Wembley Stadium, that was an epiphany for me. That was a moment. He went there with a friend. He said 50 rows back in 1992. And he had to believe that somehow he was going to be a professional wrestler. And blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
The only thing that made sense was wrestling Bryan. But Bryan broke his arm because, and here's the big takeaway from this.
This is the big news article that you broke, that this guy said, we can't confirm, but this was said in the interview.
It was an interview with Chris Van Vliet, or Van Vliet, or however you want to pronounce his last name.
You're saying it correct.
The guy who does exemplary interviews on YouTube, on a YouTube show, an award-winning podcast. He said Bryan broke his arm because he's got osteoporosis. McGuinness was then asked to comment on what would have happened had Bryan not broken his arm ahead of All In 2023. He noted he wasn't sure. A lot of it was out of his control. McGuinness looked back on his past with Bryan Danielson. And they had some hellacious matches, I will say, back in Ring of Honor, back in the early 2000s. And he wants to run that back. I mean, they would headbutt each other so hard that Danielson...
Bottles.
What do you call it? Tore his retina, or dislocated his retina, separated his retina. I don't know what. Detached it. Go ahead.
No one gives a shit about this.
No, I'm just saying, pal. This is something that Tony Khan, it's a wet dream for Tony Khan to have these guys.
What? Okay.
20 years later in the ring to wrestle. Nigel McGuinness had hepatitis B in Impact. That's why he had to stop wrestling. And he tried out for the WWE. But his biceps are all jacked up because he tore his biceps wrestling in Ring of Honor, and he never got them repaired surgically. So his biceps are just shredded. And they said, well, you can't wrestle in the ring with his arms like that. And Vince was in power then. Vince probably said, God damn, pal, look at him. Look at his buggy whip arms.
No one cares. We are going to be back Thursday. I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notifications.
No. Tony Khan cares. You hateful man.
Oh, my God. I know who loves me, though, Bottles.
Till next week, Gordon Soley saying so long from the Sunshine State.